Robin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody said that they want to pet a dog.
Did they what?
They want to pet it.
You can't pet them, no.
I'm trying to tell them.
No. They are not an animal. They are a human. They are just an ancient people.
But do you think that they could be domesticated?
No,
As a
no,
puppy?
no, heavens no. They really and truly, even the DNA states it, they are a human hybrid. You know, I asked them years before the Ketchum study was ever done what they were. And they told me that they were human like me. And then they pointed to the sky and said, "In star people." And I figure, you know, they're going to know what they are before anybody else will. But I think the things that really stand out to point that they're human is they have a language. They can speak our language. They can speak in other languages. Plus, they have their own language. They have an alphabet. They can talk. They live, you know, they have family groups. Their mannerisms, their behaviorisms are definitely human. But I mean, you're talking, they can read, they can write, they have a language. You know, they can speak in our language. Their culture has laws. I mean, there's just everything about them that points to them being a people. And this was told to me by them and taught to me by well before I ever knew Melba Ketchum. They were the ones that told me to find Melba. I had never even heard of the woman or the study. And they were the ones that said, "She needs your help. You have to help her. You have to show people the truth." And I said, "Okay." So I had someone that I knew that knew Melba. And I had him reach out to her, and he contacted her and gave her my phone number. And I thought, you know, the only thing I can do is offer to help if she wants it. And she called and we spoke. And like 3 months later, she said to me, she said, "You're the only one that hasn't asked me for the results of the study." And I said, "I don't need them." I'm assuming if you did it, then it came back exactly what I have. And that's that they're a human hybrid. And she said, "That's exactly what it says." And I said, "Well, there's a reason for that, you know?" So that was just, and Melba and I are very dear friends even today.
Right. And I just don't like the way that they treated her as far as her evidence. That's why she don't like doing interviews.
No, she won't. And that's why she, to begin with, they didn't know the whole story. They took bits and pieces. of what they wanted to keep believing, and they attacked her for it. And then everybody says, well, she could have said everything. No, she really couldn't, because nobody would be quiet long enough to listen. It was from the second the study was released, it was pure attack mode. There was nothing other than an attack. Right. So why do you keep defending yourself if people aren't willing to listen to hear the truth? It was so much being condemned that there was just no point in her trying to come forward and say, well, this, and this. She did attempt it at first, and she did try to show some facts that proved what she was saying, and she got crucified for that too. And she just said, why bother? People aren't ready for the truth.
You're absolutely right. You know, but she went out there, she got the evidence, she got the DNA, so she did her part.
She did it. And the other things people didn't realize were she was not the only scientist that tested it to begin with. You know, she may have done some samples in the beginning, but when it got down to, okay, we've really got something novel here, this is something that's not been discovered before, she sent it out because she didn't want people to think that she was being untruthful. She sent it out to the top labs in the country. 133 samples went out. These samples were sent as blind studies, meaning that the labs that got them, again, top labs in our country, all they got was something saying, do a species ID on this. They had no idea what they were looking for. They didn't have any idea. You know, there were samples taken from people that were on her team to prove that there was no contamination. It didn't match any DNA from anybody associated with it. But those samples were clean. They even did it with robotic arms to make sure that no human being touched these samples. It didn't change the results. Because you can't change the truth. You don't have to like the truth. You don't have to accept the truth. But the truth can't be changed. And I'd like to point out there's also been nobody else that's ever pulled 3 genomes out of him either. That still hasn't been duplicated.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So she found out it was what I guess part canine, part human, and the other part she didn't know, right?
Are you talking about the Bigfoot?
Yeah.
No, the Bigfoot, it didn't come back with canine in at all.
No, I'm talking about the dog man, my bad.
Oh, she hasn't released any samples yet for the canine or for the dog man. That hasn't even come out yet. So that I just would never even comment on. She did the study on the Bigfoot, you know, but again, nobody was willing to listen to it, regardless of what the truth and the facts were. And those came back. The mitochondrial side, being the mother, was human. The nuclear side, which is the dad, came back unknown. You have to understand, to come back unknown is because in the databases that were allowed to be used for that study, there was nothing to compare it to. Nothing. That's why the dad came back unknown. My perspective is a little bit different, but not because of any connection with Melba's study or the paper. I asked them years before I met Melba. I didn't even know about her or the study, and I asked what they were. That's when they told me they pointed to me and they said, we're human like you. And then they pointed to the sky and said, and star people. But that is, you know, that comes from me. That has nothing to do. Those results are just my own personal results that I was told by the Bigfoot. That has nothing to do with the Ketchum study at all. The Ketchum study is very clear. The mother's side is human. The father's side is unknown.
Right. Okay, now I got you. Hey, Stephanie. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, because I tried to get it come on the show, and she said that's when she turned me on to you. So I was way ecstatic.
Yeah, Melba, there's nothing I won't do for this woman. I didn't know her at the time that the Bigfoot told me to get hold of her. And we just have developed an amazing relationship as far as, you know, she's like a sister to me. I watched what she went through. I know how legitimate she is. It has nothing to do with any personal feelings for her. Her level of integrity is above reproach, and people can trash her. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't matter. I know her. I know what went on in that study. I know all of what went on in that study. That study is legit. You know, I mean, it backs up everything that the Bigfoots have been teaching me since I was a toddler.
Right. I know B. I was trying to get it clear. I don't know why the interference is coming in like that, but it's been like that since we started. I tried to turn the volume down low. I tried to turn the volume down low, but
You're all right now.
okay. All right. So basically
you
go
have
ahead,
to
Robert.
realize all these hybrids, they're all, to begin with, they were created. They were created by the ETs primarily. We do have some government involvement that's also created cryptids. However, primarily they were done by the ETs. And like when it comes to the cat people, they themselves will tell you they're feline, human, and ET. Lizard man, lizard, human, and ET. And it just goes right down the line. Goat man, goat, human,
Okay.
ET. These
Okay.
are all
Somebody said
by
take the earbuds out. So I'm gonna take them out and let me know how it sound then. Y'all hear me?
I lost you again.
See, if I had ear, I would be better. Say she can hear me. Oh, let me Cameron might be that audio. All right, for the audio, do I put it on default internal mic then or external mic built in? Then it
Yeah,
got
now I'm missing part of your words again.
wait a minute. Do it sound? What about now? That don't
I can't hear you at all now.
now. Wait a minute. What about now?
I'm missing part of the words.
I think that's the only way to hear me. That's the only way to hear me is with the earbud. What about now, Rob?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Hear me like was she gonna be I'm getting ready to get anyway. She at her site, her count, and she gonna first of all, let's all right. Robin, can you give us a brief bio about yourself, where you from, got you with
I was born and raised in Michigan. I started getting contact with the Bigfoot when as early as I can remember, was probably 2 years old. My mom used to tell stories about how I had what they thought at the time was an imaginary friend, but the description matched a dogman and a Bigfoot. And by the time I was 4, I was already telepathically speaking with everything. My first ET abduction, I was 4 years old. That continued throughout my life. My encounters with the cryptids have kept up through my entire life. There's never been a time I haven't had it. If I move, they just follow. I've spoken verbally with them. I've spoken telepathically with them. I've had ongoing contact my whole life. So, and I get anything. I mean, whether it's an ET, the good, the bad, a dogman, a Bigfoot, a cat person, goat man, lizard man, it just everything. I mean, I've had cryptids running around here. I don't even know what they are. I don't. I've asked the Bigfoots what they are, and they call it a Micaiah, but they use Micaiah as a blanket term for cryptids that have no name. It means G that walks the earth but has no name.
Wow. All right, y'all. Y'all wanted it. He can give it to y'all. All right, Robin. From the beginning, after she finished, please put y'all questions. But
Yeah,
all right,
I'll try
Robin.
to answer as many questions as I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll simply tell you I don't know.
Okay.
I don't claim to be an expert. I don't believe there are experts in this field.
Absolutely.
I feel that everybody, whether you've had a lot of experience or little experience, I think it's all important. I think it all adds to the collective to learn. So I don't feel like there's anybody that is higher up than the other person, I guess is the best way to put it. It's
Right.
all a learning curve. We're never going to know it all because they're not going to let us. And they work their people under the rule of one, which is the rule of raw. And that means everything is one. They work as a collective. They don't sanction it out where this person's above this or whatever. I mean, they have their elders, they have their ancient ones, they have the sky, the sky elders, and they have all of those things. But for the most part, everything is worked as a collective. All their energy combined is what makes things happen. I mean, we have a lot we could learn from them.
Absolutely. All right, Robin. Like I said, we wanted it. They can get it. Start from the beginning. From the beginning to the end, tell us about all your encounters and your experience with these cryptids. So the show is yours. You can start. I'm out. I'm out.
Trying to think which would be the most enjoyable for people. I mean, they've been around me my whole life. I would go and play even as a 4-year-old. 2 or 3 houses down was a tree line, and there had these big mounds of dirt there, and you could ride your bikes or whatever. And as a 4-year-old, it was safe at that time, not now, but at that time you could go down there and play, and your parents weren't afraid you were going to be abducted or attacked or anything like that. And so I would go down there, and they would come up to the tree line, and they'd watch me. And they just always mind that. I mean, I verbally have spoken to them multitude of times, but they'd speak telepathically. And so I was not aware that that's not what everybody did. I mean, it took me years to realize that not everybody spoke like that. I had no clue because that was just always what I did. I've always had premonitions. I've always been able to do certain things that, most people would look at me and say either I was crazy or you can't really do that. And then I would do them. But they were always around me everywhere I went. By the time I was 4, I could tell you about dogmen. I could tell you about Bigfoot. I could talk to you about street or tree structures. I could talk to you about, alien abductions. And I was 4 years old. They didn't even have the Patterson-Gimlin footage out yet. So, everybody would just kind of look at me. So I got really quiet about it for a long time, but I kept up my interaction with them. And I just kept getting more and more. And in like 2009 or 2010, when I had even more interaction, I mean, I'd always had the interaction, but that one was just like over the top. They would walk freely around my property. We had 10 acres, and they just came and go as they wanted. I mean, cloaking, everybody, there's such a controversial thing on cloaking. Sorry, folks, it exists. It is what it is. They do anything from a shimmer, which is the predator effect, so you can see what looks like that gelled or water glass type look, or they go into full cloak. When they're fully cloaked, you can't tell they're there. If you know how to read energy, which I do, you can tell by that. But they do what's called counting coup, and counting coup used to be for them like a rite of passage. And what it is they become cloaked, they walk up and they actually put hands on us and touch us. They don't hurt anything. They don't try to hurt anybody. They just simply touch them. But they will do it now just for the fun of it. I mean, it's not just enough rite of passage anymore. They used to come up behind me. I'd be out in the woods with them, and they'd come up and pat my hair. I have thick, fuzzy hair just like they do, and they have always been really into my hair. It used to be much longer, and they would come and play with it. I'd go to bed at night and leave my window open because I like my window open at night. And I'd wake up and I'd have leaves and mud in my hair because they would play with it all night long. And I made the mistake of moving my bed away from the window, and it just was like a disaster. They screamed and hollered and pounded on the house, and it was a nightmare. So I just went ahead and put it back by the window. But they had just, I don't know, they just are there. I mean, I can't explain it. It just happens. When I was back, this was probably back in the early 90s, they had me come outside one night, and they took me to a place which is, where they actually live at is so far hidden that most people don't find it. There are some people that have, but for the most part, it's not easy to find. People see a lot of these temporary teepees and shelters and things. Those are only a temporary home. That is not where they live. And they actually took me to where they lived. I had to go through, the only thing I can attribute it to would be a portal. They told me to lean up against this bush. I did. Next thing I knew, I was in another place. I saw the nest, which was like the size of a 2.5 car garage and built like 4.5 feet off the ground. And there were 3 of them there. And then when it was time to leave, they had me lean up against the same bush and touch it. And then all of a sudden I was on the outside of
Okay, okay, Robin. Can you share any encounters with us right now at this moment, whether it be Doug Man, Bigfoot, any kind of cryptid? Then you can go into your flesh and blood.
it. Okay. Um, well, of course, I'm still having them now. They used to go, and they do it sometimes now still. When I was living in Michigan before I moved south, they would go up and pound on the walls of the house every night at exactly 2 a.m. And they did this because they wanted me to come outside. And so I caution people now. I mean, what I did with them, I wouldn't suggest for anybody, because if I would have had a clan other than the one I had, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. But, they are very loving people. However, the bad ones are lethal. And just like with our people, there's good and there's bad. They're not all bad. They're not all good. I mean, if they have free will, they make their own choices. So I would go out and I would literally sit with them. And they had a section that they had made, like probably 35, 40 feet from my front door in the woods. And it was rectangular shaped, and it had a teepee in it that they would go into, and then they would just be gone. It had to have been some kind of a portal in there. But it was like a place of worship that they would go every single night. And they would want me to come out, and I would go out there, and I'd be the crazy person out in the woods sitting by myself, no flashlight, in my pajamas, no weapons, and they would just pace around me and they'd talk. Or I would be out in the side of the yard and they would talk to me, and they sometimes it was verbally, sometimes it was telepathically. Since I've moved to the place here where I'm at now, I don't go out at night, not due to them or the cryptids, but we have such a bad problem with snakes here, the rattlesnakes and the copperheads and that kind thing. I don't go out at night because you can't see them in the grass. The Bigfoots and the dogmens and the cat people and whatever else is out there at the time, I have no fear of being out with them. My fear comes from the venomous snakes that we have here. But they will still come up and knock on the walls. I mean, we still get that. We had an experience here not even a year ago where my husband and I were laying in bed, and it was very early in the morning, and they just literally pounded the living tar out of our bedroom wall. And we thought, what is going on? But nobody said anything. And my husband speaks telepathic as well. He's phenomenal at it, one of the best I've worked with. And neither one of us could get him to talk. And so we went back to sleep, and they started up again. And I looked at my husband. I said, there's something major wrong, because they're being ridiculous right now. I mean, it felt like the whole house, there was an earthquake. So we went outside, and here out in the front yard, one of the branches off our tree had come down on a power line, and the power line was sparking, and it was causing the ground, because there were leaves all over. It was last fall. And these sparks would hit these leaves, and they would automatically start a fire. And out there was like 6 or 7 of these little fires that had been started, but yet every time one would start, you would see what would look like the shimmer or the predator effect go up to it. It would swirl and it would be put out. And had we not listened and realized something was wrong and not gone out there, the whole house could have burned down. We live in the woods. It would take nothing to set the woods on fire and burn the house down. And they were putting it out as soon as it would start. As soon as we got out there, realized what was going on, we called the fire department, called the the electric company, and it got taken care of. But had we not listened to them, it could have ended differently. They saved my life 4 times. And they really, one of their laws is they are not supposed to interfere with our world. They're not supposed to interfere with our lives. However, they don't always stick to that rule. It just goes on a case to case basis. People will call me and say, listen, tell them I need them to heal me. It doesn't work like that. I wish I had that power. Um, just because I tell them to do something, I'm like everybody else. They're not going to do it just because I said it. Do they do a lot of things for me? Yes, they've been very helpful. I've asked them to move certain trees at times that had come down, and they did that out of the kindness of their big furry hearts. I was in the hospital. It was actually a situation where we believe that it was an ET attack, and I ended up in intensive care. It was not looking very good. And I had told my husband, we were dating at the time, and I said, you need to contact my friend. And my friend, my husband, and myself, we basically work for them, the good ones. If they need something, they come to us. And I generally try to do it. And they have healers that are incredible. And we kind of have this pact where if something goes south, we know to just contact one of the other two, and we don't have to say anything. Nothing has to be explained. It just means get the healers. And so they got the healers, and the healers came, and I had been told I'd be 6 months in intensive care, 6 months in the hospital. I was out of intensive care in 12 hours and home in 24. To this day, the doctors can't explain it. I recently had a stint in the hospital, not due to COVID or anything like that, but due to an injury that infected, and I was not doing well. I got released too early, and I ended up back in the hospital in ER, and I couldn't sit up. I was so bad. And I asked for healing. I asked for the healers, and I went from not being able to walk on my own to getting up and able to walk out and feeling fine. So, the healers work, but it's very limited when we get them to do it. I know multiple people that have been healed by them. What is the process and the protocol to get healed by them? I couldn't tell you because it varies. It's really a case by case thing. I think the only reason they have with me is I work for them, and they kind of need me every now and then. I think I need them more, but they think they need me now and then. I do healing work on them as well, so has a lot to do with it. But
Right.
we generally get some form of contact, even if it's a verbal. We get generally something every day. Like last night, I was doing some work. I was making some bouquets, and the snips that I needed for the flowers, I had them sitting on the counter, and I turned around and they were gone. We tore this house apart. They were not there all last night, and we get stuff taken a lot. And tonight I walk into the kitchen and they're sitting there right out in the open. And I'm like, not funny, not cool. They have a very wicked sense of humor. I don't know if anybody's ever seen them before, but Chex Mix makes what's called Muddy Buddies. They're like a Chex cereal with peanut butter and chocolate in them, and they're covered in powdered sugar. And they're fantastic. And one of my Bigfoots absolutely loves these things. And he laughs at me every time I tell this story. But I was at home. I had a bag of them. I took the kids to school, and I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm going to relax. I'm going to eat these Muddy Buddies. And it was the only thing sitting on the counter. Only thing. I took the kids to school. I came back, and I had giant muddy footprints going in the door, up on the porch, into the house, and all through the house. And I thought, great. So I clean it all up. I go to grab my Muddy Buddies, and they are long gone. Not even there. I turned that house upside down, couldn't find it. I walk out in the woods, and here's the empty bag. I'm like, you guys are not funny. They used to, Igor Borstedt, they love him, and they love to pull pranks on him. And he had I had an area where they would come in and get treats and stuff. And I don't advise people anymore to feed them, because if you have a group that doesn't, want you to stop, they can get rather testy. You're never going to feed them enough to keep them alive anyway. I tell people, give feathers, white rocks, beads, crystals, those kind of things. You're much better off. Once in a while, maybe some apples, but just be cautious on how much food you're putting out. And Igor decided that at that time I had a feeding area. He was going to put chicken legs in a jar, close the lid on it. That way they would have to unscrew the top and take it out. And he was sitting in our pickup and he was kind of hiding in there thinking he was going to get this on film. Well, he was going to stay up all night long to do this. And I said, you go right ahead. I'm going to bed because it's not going to work. You'll never catch him. So he stayed out there all night long, decided he wanted to come into the house, use the restroom and get a cup of coffee about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. He comes in to do that, walks back outside, and he was upset because all night long, that jar with the chicken legs sat in the woods and they never came in. He came in for 2 minutes to get a cup of coffee, walked back out, the jar sitting empty on the hood of the truck. And they had opened the lid, got the chicken leg, and then set it on the truck he was hiding in all night long.
Wow. Okay, Ryman. So can you go in to some of the flesh and blood part about them? Do they mostly, like when we see them? Sometimes when you look, we know they there, but you can't see them like in real time. But it seems like when you start taking pictures, that's when you catch them. So do they be like in a cloak kind of state?
What happens is they are multidimensional, meaning they can be in this dimension, they can go through a portal, go into another dimension, and they can go into as many dimensions as they want. I know some of them that are an 11th dimensional being. I know some that are 9, and that has a lot to do with the rank that they have. But what happens is they can be in physical form. In physical form, it's just like our physical form. It really and truly is. But they can also go into cloaking forms. They can go into what I call shadow form, which looks like a shadow of them, just a dark shadow. But I want to point out something when it comes, while they're in this physical form and then using these paranormal abilities and cloaking. They are all born with the abilities. However, there's a catch to it. If their parents are from a clan that is more old school and doesn't use abilities, and there are clans that do that, kind of like Amish, how the Amish, some people, in the Amish culture will not use electricity, or they won't use a vehicle, or those type of things. It's not any different for their people. And there are some groups that refuse to use the abilities that they have. Now, if the parent does not educate the children and let them know they have abilities, they don't know they do, so they don't use them. Okay? It's like, I can speak telepathically. Well, my mom didn't tell me I could because my mom didn't know that it existed. It just happened because that's what I was doing. But for anybody else, once they know that they can speak that way, they can be taught to do it. I believe it's an ability that we've always had for hundreds and hundreds of years, but we've been dumbed down because our government has said none of this exists. So it's not used. People don't believe they can because they never thought they could. So it's basically the same for them. If the parents don't teach them that they can cloak, if the parents don't teach them that they can mind speak, they can't do it. If the parents don't teach them that they can levitate, they're not going to levitate because they don't know they can. I mean, they have abilities that people will never be able to comprehend. I physically watched it. It's like they can shapeshift into things. People, there's so many things that they can do, but if they're not taught by their parents, they don't know they can. A perfect example is Kevin Lane. Kevin Lane was a very wonderful man that I felt very blessed to meet prior to his death. And he found a young Bigfoot, and the family had been killed by the government, and he was basically an orphan. They weren't there to teach him that he had abilities. So Kevin took care of him for many, many years. And then when it got to where it wasn't safe for him because people were finding out about him, he changed and he took him somewhere else where he could get with another clan. He didn't use any paranormal abilities when he was with Kevin because Kevin didn't know about him and his parents weren't there to teach him. Now he gets with another clan and they do use paranormal abilities, and now Glag's able to use them as well. He had to be taught that he had them. And that's pretty much how it works. So that's why, some people say, well, I saw one and it was in flesh and blood. It didn't use any abilities. Number one, maybe it didn't feel that it needed to in that situation. Or maybe it wasn't taught that it could. But they can go into flesh and blood. And when they are in flesh and blood, they are just as flesh and blood as we are. But all they have to do is change their vibration, which changes their energy. And they can go into multidimensional. They can go into cloaking. We asked them, Pat and I asked them one time, how do you cloak? How do you do it? And they said, it's simple. We bend the light. We bend the light, and now then you can't see us. And they bend the light by using every energy. Everything here in our world and in other worlds is based on energy. It's all a matter of knowing how to move it and how to use it. When your vibration is higher, and your vibration will come up because you're happy, you're excited, maybe upbeat music, whatever makes you happy, that brings that vibration up. And once your vibration is up, so is your energy.
Okay. Okay, I got you. All right. Okay, can you from what you know, because we talked earlier though, can you tell us a little bit of what you know about these cat cryptids?
Well, the cat people and other people have called them the lion people, which that's fine. I call them a cat person just because the ones I've seen, I mean, I have seen one that had more of a little bit of a mane to it, but for the most part, they just look like the head of a cat on a human body. And the ones that in fact, I showed you the picture. That one had very, very short hair, almost like flesh colored hair, but it was very, very short. And her name is Emerald, and she was 6 to 7 feet tall. I've not seen or spoken with any of them that were aggressive. They seem to be a very peaceful being. But again, I want to point out to everybody that there is good and bad in everything. Okay, just like we have really good people, we have really bad people. So when it comes to the ETs, the cryptids, any of these things, you're going to have good and bad. The only thing is when it comes to the cryptids, the bad ones really pack a punch because of the abilities they have. They can become lethal. Wow. Certain things are more primarily good, like with the Bigfoots. I found my experience has been that the bad ones are so incredibly dangerous, but there's more good ones than bad. And the good ones have a deeper sense of love than what we know or experience with our people. But the bad people seem to be pretty cool. Like I've not had issues with them at all. But I also haven't had problems with dogmen. I have spoken with some that were highly aggressive. And so, I mean, I know that they can be. The ones that stick around me most of the time, I've never had a problem with them. When I lived in Michigan, there was a gentleman that decided that the way he was going to get hold of one of the Bigfoots was to put me in a cage, and then they would come in to save me. And the Bigfoots found out about it, let me know about it. We found evidence and proof that that was the plan. And the Bigfoots and the dogmen put a stop to it. Wow. So, I mean, I just haven't had a bad experience. I had one of my boys that was out hunting, and on our property in our backwoods is where my kids would hunt. And the front woods, whenever they would go out to hunt, I tell everything, you guys go to the front woods, you're safe. I won't allow guns there. I won't allow anything to hunt there. So let them hunt in the back. And that's what we always did. And he went out very early one morning and was sitting up against the base of a pine tree. And he fell asleep, and he woke up, and here's this baby dogman that was like 3 foot tall, standing there next in front of him, looking at him, cocking his head back and forth. And it stopped and heard its mom howling, and it turned around and looked towards the mom, and it ran to mom. And so my son got out of there, but they never tried to hurt him. We have had a couple that didn't come on our property, but that were nearby that felt less than good. I know how to read energy, and their energy was not real great. However, they never did anything.
Right. Okay, now I want to go into this other cryptid, Robin. Your research, your experience. What is this goat man to you? Is it evil? Is it demonic?
No, and I get this so much. People think that because they are a cryptid or they're an ET, they're demonic. I'm sorry, my personal belief is that's not accurate, because there's a difference between bad, evil, and demonic. Demonic comes from the underworld. I've had demonic entities come after me. I've also removed them off of other people. So, but they come from the underworld. Demonic is a whole different ballgame. Just because something is bad doesn't make it demonic. I have not found any proof anywhere, and I know other people don't share this opinion, and that's okay. but I've not personally found anything proving to me that any of the cryptids are demonic. Okay. The goat man is not the friendliest of sorts. My own personal opinion is leave him alone. He wants to be alone. He's not overly happy most of the time, but they're not like bloodthirsty killers out to hunt everybody. They just don't want to be bothered, and that's okay. They don't have to be part of our lives, and they just don't want to. Now, I did speak with one that was in a different state, because with Mind Speak, you can speak anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. I spoke at the International Scientific Conference in Siberia for Dr. Igor Borstev when he had it, and I still speak to the Bigfoots in Siberia that I met there. So you can be anywhere when you do it. But the goat man, he really is crabby. He just doesn't want anybody in his area. They seem to be more territorial. I don't think they want to hurt people. They just really and truly want to be left alone. Now, the one that I did talk to that was pleasant was out of state. He didn't seem aggressive. His only problem was he was overly curious, and he was getting too close to people, and he was watching them. He didn't have any ill intent. He just was studying them and, kind of looking at it like, okay, they're close to my area. I'm not really sure I'm comfortable with this. I just want to make sure they're not coming after me type thing.
Right. Because I have heard from our witnesses and people say that sometimes these cryptids will make some type of note, like a woman in pain or something, to lure people in.
Oh, yeah. They are the best. I would say the Bigfoots more than any of the other cryptids. The other cryptids can do it as well, so not everything is the Bigfoot, but they can mimic anything, whether it's copying someone's voice, whether it's a bird, an owl, a frog. They can smack their cheeks in a way that sounds like rocks clapping together, and they are intensely accurate. It's just unbelievable. And they don't necessarily do it to be aggressive or to hurt anybody, but they would, at my house, and this was years ago, and they've done it a few times where I'm at now. My kids would be out hunting, and they would hear my voice out there. And so we got to the point where I told the kids, unless you physically see me, if something calls you, says, hey, I'm Mom, I want you to come here, or whatever, you do not go. Absolutely. Nobody's going to get grounded. Nobody's going to get hurt. But unless you lay eyes on me, absolutely, you do not go. I have certain ones of the Bigfoot that I trust with my life, but I don't trust anybody with my children's life. So, or my grandchildren. So I'm very protective of that. I'm very cautious. We had the three that I'm very close to. My granddaughter, she was 5 at the time. Now she's, a teenager and not little. But she was staying at my house for a few months while her mom was in the military. And I looked outside. I'd went in the house to make her lunch. And I watched her rolling a rock into the woods, and then the rock would get rolled back to her. And I watched this exchange for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh no, now you're too close. So I went out there, and we had just taken her to see Alvin and the Chipmunks. And she said, Grandma, she said, you won't believe it. She said, you are so cool. And I said, why? And she said, you have Alvin and you have the chipmunks living here. But she said, your chipmunks are a whole lot bigger than the one in the movies. These ones are bigger than my dad. And I was like, if you only knew, little girl, what they really are. But they never tried to hurt her. But they have taken children before, not necessarily to kill them, although the kids usually don't survive because they die of elements. But they'll take it for various reasons. You could have a mother that's lost a child and is grieving. They can take them in their world. If a child is left unattended for 5 minutes, it's without a clan. So they'll take it thinking the child is alone. But it's also important to remember that in our culture, we have murderers, we have pedophiles, we have rapists, we have all these things. These beings are part human. All of the cryptids are. They also have ones that will do the same thing. While they are primarily good, that doesn't mean that the bad ones aren't completely bad. So we have to be mindful of the fact that, we have these kind of things in our people, in our race. They do as well.
Right. Okay, let me ask you this because a lot of people been saying this about this race thing. Do you think Doug, man, Doug said he killed a race? Do
The
you think
dog
that's
would what?
true? That Doug and here kill race?
No, I don't believe that at all. I think that, and we've had positive proof from individuals that have been abducted. The ETs create hybrids, and they've been dropping them here for decades. We have the government that also has cryptids, and they drop them off and they let them run wild. But primarily, the ETs create a lot of cryptids, and it's just one more thing. I think a rake is either some type of an ET that has not been identified, or it's something they've created and dropped off here. I mean, it could be something the government did, but I think I'm more inclined to believe that with the rake that it has an ET sense to it. But I don't believe that, I don't believe that at all. No, they're just more things that are here. People don't have a clue really how many hybrids and cryptids are here. It's astronomical.
I
And
know.
more shows up every day. The cattle mutilations. The age-old question is, are they from the ETs or not? Most of them are. And they take the blood from the cattle and they mix it with different DNA sequencing. And that, for whatever reason, the DNA in the cows make a great base for them to create things with, and they can use them for that. And they do.
Wow. This is what I want to ask you too. If you can remember, as far as the murders that happening, I think it was in County, Tennessee, when people was attacked.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What, babe?
I think it happened in County, Tennessee. People was attacked and killed.
I didn't hear about that one. It's possible. It wouldn't surprise me.
Mhm.
I lived in Michigan, and we had a woman that was attacked in Presque Isle, and she was walking in the park, and one of the Bigfoot clans that were up there were not a good clan. They were very vicious, and they did a killing. It was like a ritual killing is what it was. And when they found her body ripped to shreds and in parts.
Wow.
And I asked mine, I said, the first thing I got off of it, because I do premonitions, and I do read energy, and for some reason I'm able to come up with some things that I shouldn't know, but I do. And then we find out later it's accurate. And so I asked the Foots, I said, my first, thing I thought of was that it was the Bigfoots. And they said that it was a rogue clan that was up there, and that the one that did it had been put to death. So I was like,
Wow.
okay. But yeah,
Um,
there are some, like I said, we've got murders and rapists and pedophiles and all these psychopaths and things in our people. They are no different. And that goes on in all the cryptids. Nothing is, the whole balance is good and evil, or good and
right.
bad. And that transfers into every cryptid out there and every ET. Not all ETs are bad.
I can believe it.
I mean, I've been visited by the Nordics, and the Nordics did not harm me at all. I've had a couple different kinds of the ETs that have shown up that haven't been bad. Have I been attacked by the bad ones? Multiple times. Have I been abducted my whole life?
Wow.
So, I mean, the first one I remember was 4 years of age.
Wow. So let me ask you this. If they started abducting you at that young age, is it like they got a hold on you?
Do they what?
Is it like they got a hold on you? Like a hold?
No, they just watch me. I think they track me. We get, I mean, so many ships over this house. It's ridiculous. I swear it's like being in an airport. But I had been, even prior to moving here, when I lived in my old house in Michigan, I
Mhm.
had been taken multiple times. The one time I was actually outside speaking to a contact that I had, and we were discussing some things that the government were doing as far as to abduct, take, whatever you want to call it, the Bigfoots or the Dogmans or whatever. And I was talking to him, and I looked over to my left, and I saw a saucer shaped disc that was the color of molten lava. And as it went down the disc, it got darker and darker. And it was hovering in the side yard of my house. And then the next thing I knew, it was an hour and 45 minutes later. I had no recollection of anything that had happened, but I was still holding my cell phone, but nobody was on it. And it was like my brain was thinking, but my body wouldn't react to what my brain was thinking. So I hit redial to find out who I had been talking to because I didn't know. My friend answered and he said, "Where'd you go?" He said, "I was talking to you and all of a sudden it was all staticky." And I said, "Something happened and I don't know what." So we talked for a few minutes. I got off the phone with him. And when I did, I turned around and I walked back in the house and I'm thinking the whole time in my mind, why are you not reacting? You're just taken. It's an hour, 45 minutes later and you're not reacting. And I got in the house, I walked in, my kids were getting ready to go to bed, and I said, "You guys, everybody got homework done, showers done." "Yeah." "Okay, I'm going to bed," which I never went to bed before they did. I walked in and I laid down. For 3 days, I barely said 2 words. I had 2 emotions of taking the kids to school, making sure they were taken care of. And 3 days later, can you hear me?
Yes, it's breaking up just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Say something.
Okay. And then 3 days later, it's like it wore off. And I had this massive panic attack.
It's breaking up a little bit, Robin.
I haven't changed anything, so I'm not quite sure why. I can exit out and go back onto the show again.
Say something now.
Is it working right now?
I can hear you
now. Okay.
There you go, right there.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing, because this has been talked about a lot of times. From what you heard and other people heard, because they changed over the years about this LBL thing, what do you think really happened in the LBL, and what type of cryptid do you think killed their family? What do you think?
My own opinion, and again, this is based on just what I've learned, is I do know, I've talked to the dogmen that are over there, and they are deadly. Okay, the bad stuff tends to clump itself together because it wants to be left alone. It doesn't want to be bothered. And there are 2 very, very large clans of bad dogmen in there. There's also a few stragglers of the Bigfoots that are in there that aren't real good. And they've all banded together in there. They don't want our people in there. They don't. Do I believe that they killed that family? 100%. They are really and truly, they have control over the LBL. That's where they're at. That's where, and they're not going to give up that land. And yet I know people that will go there just to poke at them so that they can see them. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it's suicide. Now, some people have gone in there and been okay, but you don't want to go there. I mean, if the bad stuff is hiding out in there, leave it alone. You know, nobody says you have to go there. Go somewhere else. There's a big world out there. Use it.
But do you think it was more than one?
Yes. Yes.
Because everybody keeps saying that they don't think it was the one that killed all them people.
I think there was more than one. I mean, I think there's probably one that was the head of it, but I don't think it acted alone. Like I said, I know of 2 very, very large clans of dogmen that are aggressive that are in there, and they went there to be away from people. And again, you know, and same thing with the other cryptids, they give signs to get you to leave. Our people choose to not acknowledge the signs
and ignore it
because they want to see them. But you want a positive encounter, not a negative. And these things can kill you, and they will, to protect their families. They will if they're bad. There's a number of reasons why they would. So, like I said, the good stays in a group, the bad stays in a group. People need to just, if you know the bad ones are there, stay out of it. Why
Right.
put yourself, your family, your friends at risk? I
You're
don't agree with what
absolutely right.
these things are doing, but at least have enough respect for yourself not to go in there and poke a bear. I mean,
You're right. You're
because
absolutely right.
the thing is you can't win a war with these things. You can't.
And that's what I be telling people. They keep saying that they want to see one of these things. I'm like, you really don't. You just saying
That's
that
what we
because you
can
can
see
talk.
them if there's a healthy way to do it so that you can come out alive afterwards. And the other thing is, if you get them that worked up and you're that upset and they're that angry because you're too close to their family or too close in their territory, they will follow you home. Okay? This is not a game you want to play because you can't win. They have more paranormal abilities than people can even begin to think. I've watched them use them. And I know that they have more that I haven't seen. And it's like, if you want those encounters, there are ways to do it. But when you go out your front door, you're now in their yard. We don't have to like that, but we need to be at least acknowledge that that's the way it works. They don't understand our property rules. They don't understand our land use. They are, this is my property. They don't get that. They run by territories and mutual agreement that everybody can be in the same place. You can live copacetically near them and be okay. I've done it my whole life. I've never been ran out of my house. I've never been attacked. I have been called out to other places in the US where there's aggressive ones. I've dealt with the bad ones before. I know how bad they can be. I don't have that experience at my house. And I would go out every night and interact with them. I go out here and interact with them. But I also know boundaries, respect. It's a mutual
Absolutely.
respect. And if
Absolutely.
you're not willing to give that to them, they're not going to give that to you.
Right. You know what I was thinking, Robin? You know what I want to do? I want to try. When I talk, I want you to mute your mic. And when you talk, try muting your mic now.
Okay, I'll mute yours.
Hello? Can everybody hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me, Christine. Anybody let me know if y'all can hear me a little better. Now see, they could hear me better now, so that's what we're gonna do. When I talk, I'm gonna mute my mic. I mean, you mute the mic when I talk, and when you talk, I mute the mic. So I'm going to ask you. Oh, I wanted to ask you something else. I'm trying to think of where this supposed to happen at. When it comes to these types, and it's just my belief. I don't believe that type 1, 2. I believe that it's just. I believe that it's just different kinds, like different looks. Like as humans, we got different looks to us. So that's what I believe. You got hyena types, you got German shepherds, you got mastiff, you got pit bulls, you got Dobermans. I think that they just got different looks to them, just like any breed of dog. So what is your take on that?
First of all, I applaud you because I am so impressed with you right now. You have no idea. And I don't ever say that lightly because nobody that I've talked to has ever said what you said except me. I agree with you 1.8 billion%. Okay. First of all, when it comes to the Bigfoot, there are no two alike. It isn't, oh, they live in this state, so they have all conial heads. That's a crock. All my clans, there's some with the conial heads, there's some with human shaped heads. Their body color is different, their hair color is different, everything. The dog man, it's the same way. The goat man, the same thing. The cat people, the same way. And I see in so many places where people say, oh, it's type 1, it's type 2. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. I think everybody is entitled to their beliefs. That's perfectly fine. It's not my way or the highway. My own personal beliefs is I don't buy that for a moment. I think it's strictly an individual. The only one that I will say with the dogman that is a different type are the ones that the government created, because those were not created the same way. The rest of them, all of them are individual. They are all different, just like our people. You go to Mexico, And there's a difference between what we look like and the ones in Mexico. Go to China, there's a difference. Every place you go, but even if all the people in the same state, they all look the same. I mean, they all look different. There's nobody that looks the same, and neither do they. So I applaud you, because you're the first person that is actually, before I said anything, stated that. So very impressive. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, I always said that when I first started anyway. I was like, why do they keep saying type 1, type 2, type 3? Now I was on a venomous fringe one time, and I want you to get your take on this too. And the question was asked to me about Marvin Allen when it comes to this, 411. What do you think is taking these people? And they was like, what cryptid do you think is taking them? And I said, well, this is just for me. You know what I mean? Could be wrong, but it don't even matter. I said, but at the end of the day, I can't sit here and blame it on Bigfoot, Doug Man, Goat Man, when there's simply not enough evidence to say that these creatures are taking these people. Could they be? They could be, but we just don't have no proof to go and say, yeah, they took that. Okay, show me the proof. I want to see the proof. I'm not going to just sit here and say cryptids are taking these people. They could be going through portals, dimensions or anything. So what is your take on that?
I agree with you. I do know that some cases it is one of the cryptids, only because I've talked to the cryptids that have owned up to it and why. But I do agree with you. I have to say 100% on this, because, portals, there's portals that are anchored, there's portals that are mobile, and sometimes you can't even see that they're there, and you simply go in them. I had a German Shepherd that went in a portal multiple times. I have a cat that every time the Bigfoots get hold of this cat, they take it into this portal, and then I have to wait for him to bring it back. And I've watched it going in and out of it. And it drives me crazy. But it can happen where you don't see it, and then this is what goes on. There's also, they talk about the stairs that they see in the woods and how dangerous that is. People go up those stairs and you don't ever see them again. There's multiple proof of people being they're disappeared and they can't locate them, but then there's evidence showing that it is possible they went in a portal. That being said, yes, some of the cryptids have taken people. I would be remiss and a liar if I said they didn't. Are that's what doing it to all of them? Absolutely not. There is so many things out there that it would take just a numerous amount of shows to even go through it all. But the thing is they are out there, and they're not all good, and they're not all safe. Is it more dangerous than our people? No. Okay. Our people, I will go out in the woods and stay with the cryptids and feel much safer than I ever will walking downtown. Our people scare me half to death. But, the cryptids, can they be scary? Of course they can. And they're scary because they look different. They don't like to be referred to as monsters. They don't like it that people are fearful of them because of the way they look, but they are what they are. We can't change that. They can't change that, and they shouldn't have to. But that doesn't mean they're good. It doesn't mean they're bad. But yeah, I don't believe that everything where people have disappeared is a Bigfoot event. I don't think it's all a dogman event or a cat person or, a goat man or anything, or an ET. Do the ETs abduct people? Absolutely. Our state parks are a dangerous place to be. They truly are. But it's not any worse than if you go out in the woods by your house, because they're there too. And even being in a city, you encounter these things. When I lived in Michigan, there was a very big article about a woman and her husband that were coming home at 7 o'clock at night. It was wintertime, so it was dark out. They lived in a bad area of Detroit. They were trying to find another home. They pulled into their subdivision. There are multiple houses that were vacant, had been broken into, and they watched a Bigfoot step out of a bay window of this house where the glass was broken, walk out, almost hit it with their car, and it turned around and ran back into the house and jumped back in the house through the window. So these things go on everywhere. There's not a place that they're not. There's not anywhere they won't go. You know, do they like it in the woods? Of course they do. Everything they hunt and eat is in the woods, and it's more solitude than it is in a city. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to go there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I definitely agree with you. Another thing that I wanted to cover, because if you had to say a place where these cryptids or creatures live, would you say mostly above ground or underground?
Both. They have no problem building tunnels underground. There's a multitude of them everywhere. They will be, if there's caves, if there's a cave system they can get deep in, they'll go in there. I've seen them use broken down houses, you know, these 100-year-old houses that you see randomly out in the woods. They'll go in and get in there. But do they go and make underground shelters? Oh, 100%. I mean, they'll make tunnel systems all over the place. And there's been countless people that have literally watched Bigfoots go and open a portal in the ground and go down in it. I was coming home one night, and I live in the woods on a dirt road, and there's a swampy area, and I was getting almost to the point where the swamp was at, and I had a very large Bigfoot go out in front of my car, and there's all these rock walls where they've made the road. And I watched the rock wall open up, and it walked into it and closed. And I'm thinking to myself, there is not anybody out there that will ever believe that this happened, but I witnessed it. I can't change it. And I also want to say that all these encounters that I've had, at least 60 to 70% people have been with me. So it's not just I saw these things. You know, people would come to my home, they'd have experiences. To this day, people come to my home and have experiences. Maybe not every single day, but they do have them here.
All right, for everybody in the chat now, y'all can send y'all questions in, and get ready to show y'all some pictures too, because she sent me some pictures that I can share with the group. But y'all can send y'all questions in. Please put them in all caps. But I'm gonna start showing y'all some pictures that she sent me in. You know, the best way I can show y'all. So.
Yeah, I can't show them from this side. I did
Right.
try. I was on Spaced Out Radio, and we tried to have me do it, and I couldn't do it, so he had to do it.
Okay, when I show the picture, Robin, you can explain to them in the chat when I show the picture. And I gotta show. I'm gonna show the picture of the last one you sent me, and then I'm gonna show the one after that. So, and you can explain this to them. And then I'll blow it up. I don't know if y'all can see it real good. I'm trying. I'm gonna post them on the page though. Hold up. Let me see.
Yeah, the glare is really bad. You can't see anything.
Wait a minute.
Okay, that right there is one of the dearest Bigfoots I've ever known in my entire life. Like, this guy has saved me multiple times. He's one of my dearest friends. That was taken. All these pictures were taken at my house, either the one in Michigan or the one I currently live in. Dr. Igor Borstov was at my house, which he spends a great deal of time when he's in the States at my home. And he was out in the backyard, and we literally were just taking a picture of him. And once we took the photo and looked at it, lo and behold, that Bigfoot back there was quite a ways away from him. That's Igor's arm that you see. And he is roughly right now about 10.5 foot tall. At that time, he was about 9 to 9.5. We had no idea he was back there. Again, when they're cloaked, if you want to get pictures, you can't focus on them. If they're centered in that picture, the problem with that is the energy that they radiate is much higher than ours, is their vibration. And so it messes with the camera, which is why it's blurred. That's why you can't get them at times. So if you're going to take a picture when in physical form, make them off center from the picture, and they will be much, much clearer. There's my guy. And if you feel that they're around, but they're cloaked, you just take random pictures. And if they're cloaked and you're taking random pictures, they show up just like he did.
Oh, okay. Now I'm gonna go to the that's the one, you know, she had sent because like she said they didn't know. Mute your mic. Okay. Yeah, she was saying that they didn't know it was in the picture, so I'm gonna show you the really the close up of it, you know, by itself.
He's got this bulbous nose. He's so adorable. He's dear. He came up and was looking in the bedroom window one night, and Pat was asleep. I was asleep. And for whatever reason, I woke up and I looked over, and it was all dark outside the window, but the other window was, you could see light coming through. So I realized, somebody was watching us, and the top of the window was 10 foot off the ground. And he had to literally scrunch down to put his face up against the glass to look in. He's just precious. So I woke up and I said, "You get to entertain him. I'm going back to bed."
Right. And hold on because she do have more. Can explain this one picking through the little tree thing.
Yeah, that one's, oh, okay. That's Matilda. She's not really showing up great. She had her hair all pulled up on the top of her head. So if you look at the top of it, it looks like there's a crown or a cone there. She doesn't have a conial head. She actually had her hair pulled up. And yes, they braid their hair. They'll put their hair in ponytails. They will take fabric that they can find, vines, leaves, whatever, and use it to pull the hair back, to put it in to make themselves feel pretty. Anyway, she was watching the fence that you can see is the fence in my backyard for our dogs. I have an animal rescue, and they love the animals. And she was peeking around the tree watching the dogs. You can show them that portal photo too with the UFO, and then show them the close up of the portal with the head coming out.
Okay. You talking about this one? Not this one or the other one?
Yeah, that one first. In the top corner where the red circle's at, you're going to see 3 dots. That's actually a triangular shaped UFO. And you can bring it down a little bit so they can see it a little bit better. There you go. It's kind of blown up where you can't see it, I think. But there is a UFO ship that's there. There's 3 dots. Down below it, now this was taken outside of my garage, is a portal that opened up. And there's a head that's coming out of it. And Marvin can show the next photo, and that will show you the head with the face. Okay, that is a close-up of that portal. You can see the eyes of it. Actually, hopefully when he puts it up on the website, it'll show the face a little bit clearer.
Right. Yeah.
This was just outside my garage one night. The security camera picked it up. We had heard a commotion out there. There was a ship out there just because there was a beam that was, and Marvin also has this photo, a beam that was shined down on my bedroom. And so we knew the ship was out there, and we heard noises. And then I pulled up the security camera because I can look at it on my phone or a tablet, and that's what I found.
Got more. Trying to see. Okay, got this one right here. Look at the little faces. Little doggies. Let me get them. There they go. There they go.
Okay, the bottom one, the bottom face is actually a Bigfoot. It's just the the face that he has. The one above it looks more like a Dogman to me, but the bottom one is definitely a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
They were looking in the, they were just in the backyard. They were hiding out in the trees watching.
I'm muted. You muted. You muted. Muted.
Oh, it popped off and went back on. Okay, that there, right there, you can see it better. You can see the face back there. That's actually a white Bigfoot. He is, I just love this guy. He is the best. He got about 10 foot from me one day, and physical form, I was able to see everything about him, and he follows me all over. He is just amazing. And then he cloaked. He was 10 foot away from me. I watched him for a few minutes and he cloaked. But he's another one that, you know, him and the other one I showed you, I give my life for these guys, not even bat an eye. That is what they call a puckwudgie. Puckwudgies you don't want to mess with.
It looks just like an elf or something.
Yeah, no, it's a puckwudgie, and they generally hang out in groups together, and they get a big pleasure out of torturing and tormenting things until they eventually kill them.
Wow.
He did not cause any trouble in my backyard. I don't know if he was, you know, checking things out for a later date, but nothing bad happened while he was there.
Right. All right. Explain this right here.
I think that one is just another portal that I think that opened up there. We get them all the time. I walked outside one night, and off in the trees, there literally was a portal just hanging there. It was unbelievable. And you could see into it. You could see stars. You could see all different colors, look like lightning bolts in it. And I asked who it was, and they just said, well, we saw your world. Now you get to see ours. And that's all they said. And then it was gone in a minute.
Wow. Okay. You can explain this a little better. But it's a little fuzzy, y'all, but
That is Amula. She is a cat person. She's very kind. I believe the bottom one,
you
which
can
is
see the face. You can actually see her face, just like a cat.
yeah, and the bottom one you can't see quite as well, and I apologize. That's just the way the photo came out. I believe it's her baby.
Okay. Okay, I see some glowing eyes on this one. Okay, stand this.
Okay, that's Trudy. Now, Trudy is kind of interesting because she's half Dogman and half Bigfoot. If you look by the thigh, you can see where her tail sticks out a little bit. And she has more of a face that's like a teddy bear, and it's not as pronounced as a regular Dogman, but that is because I believe she's half Bigfoot and half Dogman. She stays with the clan of Bigfoot. She really doesn't. I've not known her to hang out with the Dogmen much, although there were Dogmen in the area, and there were Dogmen that stayed at my house, so they were all there in a shared space. But yeah, she's pretty awesome. She's a sweet girl.
And you can explain this, like I said, some pictures ain't gonna come in 100%.
That is just a baby. You can see her little sweet face. She was her mommy had her hiding in the grass, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But you can just barely see her little sweet face. She wasn't very old. She was only about 2 or 3 months old.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Okay. I'm going to tell you the story of that, and then when my husband comes on and one of the future shows, he'll probably talk about it as well. It was very crazy. That is the hand of a Bigfoot. And the reason, we don't even really know why he put it on the pillow. I was home by myself all day. I went in the bedroom and cleaned it from top to bottom. That pillow on the other side of it is Chewbacca. Okay. Chewbacca was created because George Lucas had an encounter with the Bigfoot when he was 9. So Chewbacca was made after that. So I cleaned the whole room. That handprint was not there. I went out in the living room. I went to walk back into the room, and there was this powder. And a lot of witnesses talk about this powder. They find, prints and things. There's always this white powder. But there was this big pile of powder on the ground. And I just cleaned, and I said, you guys, I have enough to clean without more. And I went to go get a broom. I came back, and 90% of it was gone, but you could see like fingerprints in it. And my husband came home, and when he came home, he walked in the bedroom, and he came out, and he said, okay, I give. What's with the handprint? And I said, what handprint? And he said, the one next to my pillow. And we went in there, and there it was. That handprint stayed on there 4 months, and we washed it. It wouldn't come off. Igor had come to visit, and he was just so excited about it. But if you look between the thumb and the first finger, we cannot open our hand open that wide. We just can't. The handprint itself was big. It wasn't enormous, but it was decent. I mean, it was all right. And then 2 weeks later, we found another small handprint in the bathroom like that.
Wow. Okay, explain this a little bit more.
Okay, that is the lizard man. I live in the South, and mine spoke with lizard men before. Some of them can be aggressive. They just don't want anything to do with us. I don't know why he was in the backyard, but he wandered in the backyard, and I took his picture. Yeah, he's probably about 7 to 8 foot tall. They do get bigger than that. That one was, that was the size he was. And he, again, watching the house. And so he ended up getting his picture taken, whether he wanted it or not. But that is a lizard man. They do exist.
Absolutely. Okay. I like this one. It's cool.
That one was actually taken with a game camera. You don't get a lot of good pictures with a game camera. I've gotten a couple, but nothing tremendous. I put it out back just for kicks, and he was in shadow form. I talked about that earlier, and he was running around the backyard, and we got him on there. Wow. You should have a photo, Mervin, of a female with another face in front of it. It's very, very clear, but it's a head and then another head in front of it.
Okay, here go another one of those portal things.
Yeah, that one we've had pop open a couple different times. I've never watched anything come out of it, but it certainly shows up. And at that thing at the bottom, it was actually a rod. I don't know if anybody's familiar with rods. They're like an energy beam, and they just look like a rod going through the air.
Oh, man. Okay. Here we go.
That is Mr. Nico. He is a dogman pup. No, he's not a bear. I get people say to me all the time it was a bear. No, it's not a bear. If you really look hard, you can see how long that snout really is. And while bears do have ears, they are not tall and pointy like his. The story behind Nico is we had just moved into the house, and I was exhausted from unpacking. So I was laying on the bed in my pajamas, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, but it was summertime, so it was still bright light out. And he got hold of me through mind speak, wanted me to come outside. And I told him I didn't really feel like it. I was tired. I wanted to go to bed. And he insisted. And I said, "What do you want?" And he says, "I just want to feel your energy." And I get that from a lot of them. So I wasn't surprised, but I didn't want to go out. And he said, "If you come out, I'll let you take my picture." And I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you something. If I go out and I don't get you in a picture, I could think you're a liar. I'm not talking to you ever again." He said, "Okay." And I went out and I got his picture. That guy cracks me up. It looks like this big blob sticking out of there. I think it felt like a Bigfoot, maybe getting ready to do the cloaking where it would look like the predator type thing, like a shimmer. But it was comical because I was taking random pictures, which is the best way to get pictures of them. And there he was.
This looks like a humanoid or something.
That is actually a little like an ET. It's possible it could be a little person. I don't think it is. I think it's a form of ET. That picture, along with the cat person, that was all taken in my front yard, in my bushes, like where the end of my front yard is. We live on a drive. It's like basically a 2-track, and then there was another row of bushes, and he was standing in there watching me. That one always creeps me out. It is a Bigfoot. It was just an odd picture. He was poking his head up. Their eyes are not like an animal where they're the reflective light, like the deer and the cats or whatever. If a light hits it, it's reflective. They could turn their eyes on and off just like headlights. And this one had white. They're almost like a mood ring. The color means whatever mood that they're in. And this one was white, which is nice and calm and just peeking around.
And just another rando. Um, every picture, every picture ain't gonna be clear. And I applaud and commend the ones that do go out and get pictures and share with people. I mean, now, if you can do a better job and go out there and get a clear picture, like as if you would take a picture of a family member, then feel free to do it. But you just ain't gonna get it. You just ain't gonna get it. But you gotta know what you're looking at. So if you don't know what you're looking at, then of course you're gonna don't say that. But I commend the people that go out and get pictures of these cryptids.
I think people need to realize that the energy that they radiate
Yeah,
does mess up the camera. It makes it very difficult. Like again, if you center them in the camera, it always comes out blurry. It really does. But it's not, I don't claim to have the clearest pictures in the world, but mine, considering other people's, are pretty decent. The only thing I can say is exactly what Marvin said. Please, by all means, go out there and get that clear shot and show it to us, because it's not as easy as you think to get. The belief system that they have is very similar to Native Americans, and they believe that the camera steals your soul. So in their beliefs, in their culture, when you take a picture of them, they believe that their soul has now been taken. Which is why people don't get a lot of pictures.
Right. Okay. This.
That is a dogman that just showed up. I mean, when we first got this photo, I thought, okay, maybe it's like a rabbit person because they are out there. But I actually think it was a dogman. You can see the tall, pointy ears. It's not the best picture. I'm not claiming that it is, but it does distinctly show ears. And it wasn't bothering anybody. She was just as a female, and she was just out in the backyard, hiding out in the trees, watching everything.
You're absolutely right. Okay. And this one right here. You can explain this. Um,
That is an ET. And I can't tell you what race it is. I don't honestly know the name of that particular race. There are hundreds and probably thousands of different races of them. So to know all the names is going to be really difficult. That one, he was just asleep. Like, I don't think he realized I would be going outside. He was down in the bushes. He was laying there. I took the picture. I took a random picture and he popped right up. And I went back later and it wasn't there anymore.
somebody want to know what's a rabbit person, because like you said, it's all type of cryptids.
They are, and again, usually what they do when they make these cryptids is they take an animal, they take a human, and they take an ET. So that's kind of the split on it. The rabbit people they would have used a rabbit, a human, and an ET. So they would have the body per se of a human, but the head portion of it would be shaped more like a rabbit.
Okay. Oh, I done spelled it wrong. Yeah. That was the Yeah, that was the last one. That was the last one on there. But do anybody got any questions before we try to answer a few questions before we wrap it up? Anybody got any questions y'all want to ask?
Marvin, go on the top pictures that I sent you. And there should be one that is a little bit clearer. I don't know if it will help anybody or not. There's a tree and there's two heads in the tree. And we took
this one.
Let me see. No, that one actually has got a picture of him in there too. Let me see if I can get it to you real quick.
This one.
No, let me see. I'll get it for you real quick here. I'm pretty sure I sent it. If not, it's not a problem. I can. It's just a little bit clearer. That maybe it would be easier for some people to see, maybe not, but let me see. I'm sending it to you right now. Where is it? Where did you go? Trying to find you and you disappeared on this. Hang on. It just popped you right. I found it, but it's let me try it. Let me try it one more time for you. There we go. Okay, I just sent it to you, so maybe that will be helpful for people. Did you get it? Were you able to find that picture? I just sent it. Yeah, this was taken. These were actually these two, perfect right there. These two are standing behind me. And in the back is the mom's head. You can barely see it, but the front is her baby.
Okay, I see it. Anybody got any questions? Let me see. Oh, Stuart Ridgway said, how old is Dugman and Bigfoot? Since the beginning, do they believe in God?
Do they believe in what? I couldn't hear you. Into God?
In God.
Yeah, both of them do. They answer to Creator, which is what they call him, but it's the same God that we worship. They they actually, believe it or not, they are, especially the Bigfoot, are very spiritual, and they really do believe in God. Now, there's been a lot of people, a lot of talk that and people that believe the dogmen are demonic. I personally do not find that to be true in my experiences and what I know of them. They all answer to Creator. Now, the bad ones, of course, don't. I mean, that's why they're bad. And it's not any different than we have atheists, and atheists aren't necessarily bad people, but we have people in our culture that don't always believe in God. And as far as the dogma and the Bigfoot go, yes, they do. They answer to their God, which is the same as ours. They just call him Creator. I can't hear you at all. I can't hear you.
Somebody Stuart want to know, how old are Dugmen since Adam and Eve? How old do you think? I mean, date back these creatures can date back.
I think a lot farther back than what we can even comprehend. It says in the Bible, God created the heavens and the earth. I believe that to be accurate, but that means that they created everything in the heavens. And these things were created originally from the ETs. I believe myself that the Ebens are the ones that created the dogmen. Now, the DNA, when Dr. Ketchum did the study for the Bigfoot, on the samples that she had, showed back 15,000 years. That's very possible. I would never dispute the science that she did, because that's what was in those particular individuals. I personally believe that they've been around for one heck of a long time. I wouldn't be shocked at 15,000. I believe the dogmen could have been here even longer. I mean, if you think about it, look at Anubis. Anubis had the canine head. I can't see you or hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to find these questions that was asked earlier, so I'm scrolling back up. Oh, somebody wanted to know, are the black-eyed ones the bad ones, either Bigfoot or Dugman?
A lot of them have black eyes, so I don't think that it has anything to do with the black-eyed ones. A lot of them, they do have other colors, but a lot of them have that dark eye. So my personal feeling from what I've witnessed is not that just because they have the dark eyes that they're aggressive, but both Dogman and Bigfoot will have dark eyes as well as other colors, but that's the primary color.
Another question. Nugi want to know if you think they are demonic.
Absolutely not. I know a lot of people think that the dogman is. And again, I don't tell anybody that they're not entitled to their opinion, because they absolutely are. My experience and my belief is that no, they are not demonic. Do I think there's some that are? Dogmen are funny, okay? They're more stoic. They don't have the sense of humor the Bigfoot have. They can get cranky. They're actually the police of the forest. That's their job. is to patrol the forest, protect the forest. So they are more stoic. But even the bad ones are, I tell people they might be bad, they might be evil. I personally, my own belief, and I know a lot of people challenge this, is no, they are not demonic. Demonic things come from the underworld, and that is not where they come from. So even if they've decided that their path is not going to be good, it's going to be bad, that does not mean they're from the underworld at all. That's not where their origination was from. So no, I don't believe they're demonic. I can't hear you again.
This person said, he said he saw a picture of a Bigfoot with a necklace. What are your thoughts on that?
100% legit. Absolutely. They'll wear animal skins. I mean, they are a human. They're just more uncivilized than us. To say that they saw him with a necklace, I believe that 110%. Absolutely. There is a story out there, and I have not talked to this gentleman personally, but a man that with his semi hit a Bigfoot. It was a female, and her mate and child were with her. He got out of the truck after he hit her and tried to help, and he was wearing a necklace with a cross on it. And she reached over and held the cross in her hand. And he took the necklace off and gave it to her, and her mate put it around her neck. But yeah, they'll absolutely wear a necklace. I can't hear you.
Richard, to know how long does man Bigfoot?
How what? I couldn't hear it. I'm
How
sorry.
big in a Doug or Bigfoot?
Well, the big feet, I mean, there's a wide range. I see a lot of people talk about how they're 6 to 8 feet. Those are the youngsters. Okay. I've gone and been within 12 inches of a 14-footer. Trust me, they get big. There is certain areas where they get bigger than that. There's claims that in the Solomon Islands, they hit 20 feet. So yeah, it just really, they can get very, very large. The Dogman, I personally don't believe they get as large as the Bigfoot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I know they can hit 10 foot easy. And I haven't heard a lot of reports that they're 12, 13, 14 feet, but do I think they can? I absolutely believe that they have the potential to, yes.
I will, Marquetta. Let me see. Okay, let me scroll up and see. Okay, I'm in Oakland County. Yeah, okay. Somebody that asked the other question too. They wanted to know, okay, here you go. Somebody wanted to know. This is Patty Groves. Are lizard men made by God, or are they bioengineered?
They're created by the ETs. They, you know, but I think when we talk about that, like I said, God is supposed to be the creator of the heavens and the earth. And he created, believe it or not, he even created the ETs because they're part of the heavens and the earth. It's a fact. And then there's free will. So everything has the ability to go either bad or good. So you've got some good ETs, some bad ETs, but they are the ones generally that create most of the cryptids. The military has their hands in it and made some as well. But as far as Lizard Man goes, it's my belief that he was just ET created.
Got one. Okay, now they said Nugi said Jacob, Israel's brother, isn't any biblical creature or being, would be Bigfoot. It would be him born with a cloak of red hair and was a wild man of the fields. Basically in the Bible. When his brother was born with a red hair and he was he was a tender of the fields. I read that in the Bible. He was saying, I mean, some people considered him, was he a Bigfoot or was he just a hairy man?
Yeah, that I couldn't answer. Like I said, I know that the Bigfoot's origin is a hybrid that was created by the ETs. To say, I would never denounce anything in the Bible at all. I think, religion is a personal thing for everybody. But I do know they were created. So as far as what was in the Bible, I'm not going to say anybody's wrong with it at all. I just know that the creation of them, that's where they came from. I do believe that there are parts in the Bible that talks about the hairy man. There's one section too that actually talks about a UFO. And do I think that they were placed down? Could they be written about in the Bible? I absolutely do. I don't think that is anything that would be impossible.
Marquetta wanted to know, what state is you in now? Are you in Michigan?
No, I'm normally in Michigan. We will be moving back there in the next year or so. Right now I'm in South Carolina, and I've had just as much activity here as I have in Michigan. I've gone to speak at conferences in other states, and whatever state I go in, they seem to show up. And there's generally people around me that have witnessed it. It's more often than not, I'm not by myself.
Oh, trust me, I just left them down there. Just a question I want to ask, and somebody just brought up something similar. Do you think that the government is creating their own cryptids of some type of super soldiers?
100%. I absolutely, with every fiber of my being, believe that. I've had government contacts that have confirmed it. And they've also let a lot of them loose on poor and suspecting people.
Somebody ever want to know, Stuart Ridgway wanted to know, have you ever met a werewolf or came in, contact with the werewolf type?
No, I haven't. I think the werewolf is pretty much a dogman that, dogmen have abilities. Now, I'm not going to say there's never been a werewolf because I don't know. I really and truly don't. I don't know at all. I don't claim to. So, I'll be very honest and say I have not met a dogman. But what do I think a dogman is? I think a dogman has always been, or a werewolf. I've always thought that they were just a regular dogman, but because they have these paranormal abilities, they can shapeshift. They can do all these other things, and I think that's where the werewolf part came in. And I just think that it's basically the same thing. I might be wrong. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
From what I've learned.
Okay. What do Bigfoot sound like? And this comes from Christine. What do Bigfoot sound like when you communicate?
When I speak with them telepathically, it's so much easier to understand them. They talk and they sound very much, like we do. They are more easy to understand. When you talk to them verbally and you listen to them with your ears, the sound is much different. It's very, very deep. It's guttural. And when we speak, we come from the top of our throats. When they speak, they come down the clavicle and in the chest. Even when they make a high voice, which they can, it all comes differently. And there's been a lot of talk, and I believe it to be true, that when we talk, we're breathing in. When they talk, they're breathing out. So it makes it a lot different. But when it comes to imitating sounds, there is nothing they cannot imitate. And when they do these whoop calls, they can be anything from high pitched to deep to just a wild, crazy thing like a woman screaming. We had a female across the road. We have a 200-acre tree farm across from me. And there's a section that is like an open area. And there was a female over there, and there were hunters that were going through there hunting raccoon and came up on her. And man, she was screaming, and she sounded like a woman being murdered. Absolutely terrifying. My one son went outside one night, him and his friend, and he heard it from the back of our woods, and they went running back there thinking that a woman had actually gotten hurt.
Wow. Okay. Somebody wanted. Thank you, my friend. Somebody wanted to know, have you ever talked to Cat Hansen?
Yes, I have. I have talked to Kat a couple times.
Okay. Put my thing at right here. I had the questions. I think I had to switch the page. I said, let me oh yeah, I wanted to ask you this. I ain't said the answer to it, but if you was to throw out a state, um, where would you mostly find or see these cat people? Because I know it's
Well, believe it or not, have I work with a lot of people. They learn me, and I try to work with them, and I help them with their clans, and I help them learn how to communicate and live peacefully among them. And I have several people in different states that have seen them. But again, regardless of what their origination is and where they're more comfortable living at, all these things use portals.
right.
So it literally, they could go from point A to point B in a blink of an eye. When I moved here, a friend of mine in Texas we both have a mutual friend in, I think it's Massachusetts, but she has one that she talks to all the time, and it goes from there to my friend in Texas. We moved to my house, and we hadn't even been here 24 hours, and he showed up here.
Wow.
I mean, it's a blink of an eye, literally. So when I say, the cat people are in this state or this state or this state, they can come from anywhere. And I think they're much more prevalent than people realize. I don't think people understand just how many cryptids there are out there. Like it's mind boggling. And these are just the ones that we know of. These aren't the ones that we don't know of. I have one running around here right now that I've seen it for the last year. I have no clue what it is.
This is what I wanted to wait a second. I wanted to ask too. Why is it why I mean, as far as when people go out and research and try to, why don't we see too many of the females and their pups? Do they just don't be around, or are they, I guess, wherever they live at or something like that, or they just don't really venture out like that?
I think they actually do. The dogmen, again, are even more reclusive than the Bigfoot. I mean, the standard joke is, hide like a Bigfoot. The dogmen hide even more. They run as a pack. They have the males go out and they're hunting, and the females are staying with the pups. Now, we had the female and the pup at my house that my son saw without any issue. Nico was at the house, so I'm sure his mom wasn't too far behind because she's not going to let him come here without her. I just think it happens to be that you get these males that are running and hunting, and that's what people are seeing more of. The thing is, with both the Bigfoot and the Dogman and these other cryptids, where they actually live, where their home is, you're not going to find it.
Right.
Some people do, but it's not that easy. And the people that do are people like myself that have been habituating with them for years, and they felt comfortable enough to show them. They don't normally allow it. These little temporary, bedding areas or teepees or whatever, that's all they are. They're temporary. So if they're out, they're scouting the area or whatever, they're safe for it. But, so a lot of your females are watching the pups. They're all very protective of their children, as they should be. My husband has not had a problem seeing the female dog or the females. He's seen the female dog, but I think more than the males.
Wow.
He used to run with his Bigfoot when he lived in Indiana. And when she got sick, the first place she went was to my husband, and he took care of her. He would put food out for her and everything while she healed. And we've had several females that have contacted us for various things. Like I said, I do healing on all these things. So they'll contact us for that. So we've had just as much contact from the girls as the guys.
Wow. Somebody wanted to know, have you ever seen a rake?
No, I have not. Have I talked to them telepathically? Yes. You don't want to mess with them. They don't even want to be around. I mean, I think they got put on this planet and they're not too happy about it. I don't think they are like out now. They're going to run around and kill you. They want to be left alone. But if you get in their space, if you get in their face, you're going to get it. You
Absolutely.
know, respect is key on all these things, and they can be highly, highly dangerous.
Absolutely, and I definitely agree with you then. Because I done had people that eyewitness that I talked to have seen these rates, and what they would describe to me as saying that these things just look weird looking, like they had like bug type legs. Man, you know, they
Yeah,
describe.
I think they're an ET. I don't think they're a cryptid. I've always felt that. I don't know why I do. They don't really match up, as far as I'm concerned, anyway, for whatever that's worth.
Mm,
They don't match up to a cryptid. I think that they are another type of ET that's been put here. And we have so many different ETs running around right now. It's ridiculous. I've been contacted by some that wanted me to know how they take possession of people because they wanted that information out. And it's not that, I'm unwilling to put the information out, but the problem is you can't make people believe what they don't want to believe. And I don't ever try to convince anybody of anything. I'm happy to share what I know. I'm happy to tell my story. I'm okay with that, but I'm also okay if people aren't ready to believe it. Some people have to experience it themselves. Other people, to go outside of a certain box is terrifying for them. And they, in time, will come around. I get people that are the haters, just like everybody else does. And I guess what I tell them is, you don't have to believe me. I'm okay with that. But while you're back at home in your chair and you're trying to figure out how to have contact, I'm at home playing with all these things. And so I'm okay. Nobody has to believe me. I'm all right with that. I can still sleep at night. All I can do is share my experiences, and people have to make up their mind for themselves.
and, and you're absolutely right though, and I agree with you 100%. Another thing I wanted to ask you, because in North Carolina, I have talked to a couple of eyewitnesses down there, and it was a lady that said that she had what she described as seeing a black large like a cat. It was just black. Now it's been a lot of people saying that they be saying these black. They've been saying that they panthers, and the guy,
Mm-hmm.
guy said,
There's Black Panthers out there. We used to get them in Michigan, believe it or not. And I mean, I literally, the first time I saw it, it was in the backyard, and there was a mouse. It had a mouse that was throwing it up in the air, and it was pawing at it and doing all these things. Called the DNR, and they spent 20 minutes telling me that they didn't exist. But then right before they got off the phone, they wanted me to know that it was also illegal to shoot it, and that if I was a good neighbor, I'd warn my neighbors. I said, well, you just told me it doesn't exist. And they said, well, you need to warn your neighbors anyway. And we had 2 or 3 of them that came through. The one came through with cubs. So do I think they've seen a Black Panther? 110%. I think they have.
so do you think that they got here from people raising them and let them go? Now one guy said that he thought it was a panther too. He said until it stood up on its back hind legs, and he said it looked at like a cat, had a like a protruding little snout on it, but he said it just stood up on its back legs, and he was like, no, that,
Did it walk?
yeah, it walked.
Well, then that would be a cat person. I mean, they really are everywhere. I mean, these cryptids don't stay located in one location. They don't understand property laws. They don't understand property lines by any means. And they all go in and out of portals. There's nowhere they can't go. Whether it's in our world or other dimensions. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay, I got it. Because Now I'm gonna get your intake on this. I want this because I seen a nest, and then I seen you know how a dog would, like, they would dig something out and just lay in it, but this had to be, it had to be from where I'm standing at. Like, if I'm out of view now though, but wait a minute, let me see if I can get the cam over here. It would be like, say if I'm standing right here. Now I'm just stepped off in the kitchen, and it would end. It ended to about, well, let me get over here. Right here. Let me measure this. This is about how long from the tip of this was
Well, was
blank.
it a hole?
It had a around it. It
It
had
had,
a, like, they could lay it.
so it was like, you said it was like a hole though.
It was probably about, it probably was about that deep.
Well, I mean, it could be a number of things. Um, if it was them, if it was the Bigfoots or even the dogmen, they can dig holes and ditches and they get down in it. So when prey comes by, they just leap up and grab it. Although generally it's deeper. But you could have interrupted them. They could have gotten started and not finished it. But they will go into these big holes and then they wait for the prey to go by and then they just leap out and grab them.
Right,
And those
because,
holes can be massive.
okay. Now the nest was, it was just about, if I'm gonna say foot, I'm gonna say probably about, from end to end, probably about 15 feet. And if I was this
Yeah,
away,
the
probably
one
about,
the one that I saw was about 4 to 4.5 feet off the ground. It was all brush on the bottom. And then the top of it, it was woven on the top. It looked like a giant Easter egg that you could look into. And it was watertight. It was storming outside. And when I went into this huge wooded area where it was at, they took me there. And that one drop of water got in. And then this huge nest that they had, it was covered on all sides except the opening at the front, 4.5 feet off the ground. You could have parked 2.5 cars in there. And it would have kept them 100% dry.
wow.
So I believe that's probably what you found.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was big.
I always tell everybody it's Big Bird's nest.
Yeah,
It'll look like.
I wanted and look like, I'm not looking at a baby. You never know.
Yeah, it could have been a nest just for having the babies. A birthing nest of some kind, because I've seen those before. I don't know that they all use them, but I do know some of them do.
Yeah, but like I was saying though, Robin, yeah, because you never know what's inside those things. And people always say they could have been built that thing months ago, because they not gonna really stay in that place for so long.
I agree. I mean, you just don't know it or what the purpose was for it. It could have been one that was by itself and it was passing through and it needed a shelter. I mean, you just don't know. But I believe they built it. I can't hear you.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that though, because I done seen all type of shelters, you know what I mean? And you'd be like wondering, why can't nobody ever catch one in one, sleeping, because they're not gonna just stay in that area, I guess, for so long. But let me ask you this. Do you think that if there's enough food resources, water, and stuff like that, that these cryptids will stay in that area, or would they venture out into new?
They'll stay there. And if the food source runs out, as long as they can walk to where the food source is, I mean, they want these shelters off the beaten path in a way where nobody's going to find them. But yeah, if it's an area that has food and water, they're not going anywhere. You're off again. I can't hear you.
Yeah, and you mute yours. All right, yeah, but like I was saying though, yeah, because I thought they would stay in the area though, because when I was in North Carolina, I used to take my grandkids out, in the daytime though. But one night we was out there when it got real dark. Now, mind you, I didn't see them when they came out, but my granddaughter, which was 12, had just happened to look back, and she said, "Grandpa," I say, "What? What's wrong?" She said, "It's two just came out the bushes where we was just at." Now, mind you, you didn't hear no sound, no type of noise, but you could see two black objects or silhouettes down there creeping up slowly. So I told them to get in front of me and start walking fast to get out there. Now, if it wasn't for my granddaughter, I wouldn't have never seen them because they showed their self to her or every time we.
Probably because she's a child. They're less threatening. But you did the one thing you did that was incredibly right was you put her ahead of you. You never, ever, when you are in the woods, do you ever let a child be behind you? They are always in front of you. If there's more than one adult, you put an adult at the head and you behind, and you keep those children between you. You just don't ever, for any reason, let them be behind you.
Yeah, and she had went out there and in the broad daylight and have taken pictures and have captured them. Just looking right, and I'm looking. I'm like, but I don't see it. She said it's right there, looking at me. And this is what my grandson did, Robin, and I took him out there for the first time. He never knew nothing about these cryptids, so I'm watching him. So he started, doing, how they do that bunny hop? They say some Doug man. He started doing that. So I'm like, boy, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing what they doing. And when he started doing the bunny hop, he dropped down to all fours and started running. So he mimicked everything that they did. He never seen things before.
Okay, how's that? Better? Okay, here's the weird twist about it. They can show themselves to whoever they want. And like, let's say you and your grandchild are standing next to each other. They don't want you to see them. They can show themselves to her and you won't see a thing. I was doing some work on a female Bigfoot. She had gotten shot in the arm. She was in bad shape. And I needed to do some healing work on her. And myself and a friend of mine went to do it. And they told her my friend couldn't come with to do it. And I said, listen, we're a team. So if you want me, you're getting both of us. And so they agreed. But when we got there, I was able to see her. My friend wasn't. So, I mean, and that's happened multitude of times where they let one person see and not the other. They pick who sees them.
And you know what? I can agree with that though, because when he started doing that, you know what I mean? I was like, I think they show themselves to kids because they're not a threat. You know what I mean? They're not going to do anything to them. You know what I mean? So that's why they are more prone to show themselves to a child than to an adult. Any more questions? Because we know we've been on here. I'm just glad she's been on here for 2 hours for me. No, I know that that my sound wasn't too good tonight, but hopefully I get her to come back on, and when I get all this fixed, then we can do it. We can do it right. But I want to thank Robin for coming on here and sharing her experiences and letting us know some things, letting me know some things that I really didn't know, about these creatures. You know what I mean? So it's always to listen to a person and try to take in what they could give you, because you can learn something from everybody, and see her pictures.
Yeah, I agree with you because nobody, there's no experts. There just isn't. It's all shared experiences. And that's how we learn. And everybody's experiences are valid. You don't have to jump on that bandwagon and believe everything they say, but all experiences should be under consideration, because when we look at the world, our world is not what we see. We've been lied to, we've been manipulated to believe certain things, and that's not it. And so I tell everybody, the old saying is seeing is believing. And what people need to do is reverse that and go to the believing is seen, because once you open your mind to the possibilities, you are amazed at what's actually out there. And I think, you know, and Doreen Fisher and I are in the process of working on a show right now. I'm not sure when it will be out, but it's about opening everybody's eyes to the truth of what's really out there. It'll be a accumulation of not only our experiences, but other people's. And, you know, when everybody's experiencing all these things over and over again, no, it's not scientific proof, but a lot of this stuff defies science. Science has a box of what is allowed in it, and I completely respect it, and I honor that, and I know it's important, but it's also important to understand that there are things that go on that defy logic, they defy science, and they go more into the metaphysical things. And so, you know, there's a lot of different aspects. I think people just need to maybe, you know, if it's hard for you to believe right now, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there. But at least be open-minded to the possibilities.
Mute your mic. Absolutely. You know, you definitely right about that. That's why when people get on here and they always say, man, I'm telling you, this Doug, man, is this and this is that, you know, I leave it alone, you know what I mean, for the time being, you know what I mean. I just, like I said, I listen to everybody, you know what I mean. I ain't gonna call nobody a liar and say you didn't see this or see that, because I wasn't there with you when you went through your experiences, you know what I mean. But I'm always open to listen. Another thing, Robin, before we go, I want to do a panel. I don't know when, and I just want to because you know a lot of people in the chat said that, you know, you got a lot of knowledge, you know what I mean, and I want to know, whenever I do it, if you would be a part of it.
Oh, I'd be honored to. That would be great. You know, I think that would be a wonderful thing. And I know you and I had talked about Pat coming on the show as well. And I think, you know, he's one of the best I've worked with as far as mind speak. It works out really well because he can mind speak, I can mind speak, and a friend of ours that works on this with us mind speaks. When we go to do things for the Bigfoot or the Dogman or whatever we are working with, we have to verify the heck out of it, because there cannot be errors, because if there's errors, some things can get hurt. And he is really one of the best I've worked with. Him and my friend, they blow me out of the water on a regular basis. It's so great because the three of us work really well together.
And you're absolutely right. And I guess that's why Melba, you know, turned me on to y'all. She was like, I'm gonna turn you on to these two because they got way more knowledge than me. You know, so I mean, I'm grateful, you know, you coming on the show. And yeah, I definitely want you to come on the panel. I guess we can you know, you and your friend Pat, and I'm gonna try to get, you know, we can try to get some more people to come on, because I want to have a you know, a nice lineup, and you know, and dig deep and talk about a lot of stuff, you know, and just share things with the listeners, and you know, just everything. We're gonna put it all out there. But I want to thank everybody from hold on, Rob. I want to thank everybody from tuning in tonight. You know, I'm grateful, I'm blessed. I want to thank my guests, everybody in the chat, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna let y'all go. We've been on here for over 2 hours, and I'm gonna see y'all on the next live. Good night, everybody.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.